welcome back to Mika React and Review, where we react and review to things on the internet. And today we're going to be reacting and reviewing Tom MacDonald's song Hangman. I have watched the song before, so this would just be a review or a breakdown of mine. This has almost close to 2 million views, and it is a few years ago. This is not one of the songs that went viral, but this is one of his songs, one of my favorite songs that he's done. I mean, I have a few of my favorite Tom MacDonald songs, but it's not anything about controversial. It's more specifically about mental health and more specifically about his mental health. He has been really honest about his mental breakdown that he went through that actually, you know, like basically got him to be sober, to become sober. So let's get right into it.
This a warning for the ones who say they aren't afraid. Lately I've been coming from a darker place. I've been dealing with depression, I'm more dangerous than ever. I've been drinking again and never felt better. I swear to God that I'm a burn.
There you go. He talks about he's coming from a darker place. And a lot of artists use those type of emotions to fuel their writing, which I'm not saying they should. But if you, like, there's been great artists who end up leaving us earlier, sooner than they had to, and then you find out later like how tortured they really were, and they use a lot of that to fuel their art, especially like comedians and stuff like that, you know, saying that he's been drinking and he never felt better. And of course, like, when you haven't had a drink or smoke or a pill or whatever your vice is for a long time, even if it's just food, even if it's just sugar or something, or shopping or gambling, you're going to like have a rush of dopamine. You are going to feel amazing, but you also know what the spiral is going to be after that. So let's continue.
I'm more dangerous than ever. I've been drinking again and never felt better. I swear to God that I'm a burn a bridge and piss on the flames. Mix the ash with some whiskey and spit it all in their face. My new girl probably flip if you got something to say. She reminds me.
Do we think he's talking about Nova? I feel like he's talking about Nova because I feel like they've been dating. They were dating in 2017. So I think he's talking about Nova, and we've heard Nova talk about how she was when she was in the past. So she seems like a firecracker even now. So yeah, let's continue. And then the burning bridge thing, like I'll burn the bridges and piss on the flames. I don't know if that's burning the bridges to people that he didn't need in his life, or burning the bridges to his friends and his family, because we do know, like, I mean, it's a common thing when you're an addict that you burn bridges, that you push people out of your life, or you do so much damage where people just walk away. So I don't know which one he's talking about, but let's continue.
Me on myself when I would drink every day. I used to feel like how I felt was just a temporary phase, but now I feel like the feelings are fucking feeding off fame, and I don't plan to slow down and give it a second to breathe. I push the pedal past the breaking point.
Yeah, like thinking that this was a temporary phase, but now it's been feeding by fame. Yeah, like if you already have, like, even if you don't have any vices, people, like, getting that initial rush of fame can go to anybody's head and maybe make them behave a certain way. But when you already have like vices and mental health issues, that fame can just make you go down to a downward spiral. And then also I'm getting the feeling that Tom is sort of like all in guy, like an all-in guy. Like, he doesn't do things halfway. Like, if he's gonna do something, he goes all in, and maybe a little bit to the extreme, which is, it can be a really good thing, and it can be really a bad thing, because it can motivate you and push you to success, but it can also make you kind of tunnel vision and not paying attention to like your mental health or other things around you that you need to be taken care of. So I'm kind of getting the feeling that that's the type of guy Tom is, and hopefully Nova is his balance. That, like, okay, babe, you know, drink some water, take a break. Right. Let's continue.
Picking up speed in 2016. Swear I came apart at the seams. I was scared of the dark and therefore afraid of my dreams. But I rebuilt what came apart with iron alloy and beams. Come fly a plane into my legs and I won't fall to my knees. Haven't taken any pills to calm me down for a month.
Come fly a plane into my legs and I won't fall on my knees. And I rebuilt what I lost with alloy and beams. And he talks about his breakdown. He's very, very open about that. But he rebuilt it, and he took that pain and he did something with it. And I love that. One of the reasons why I like Tom MacDonald, and also the same reason why I like Nova, or even someone like Dax, is because they're lyricists, and you can tell they are writers. I'm a writer. one of my subscribers or someone who commented, like, basically kind of peeped that out about me, that of the way I speak. And I didn't know that the way I speak, you can tell that I'm a writer, because I don't think I'm the most eloquent speaker there is. I think I write way better than I talk. But I'm a writer, and I'm also a poet. I'm more of a writer than a poet, but I use a lot of metaphors, and I'm very descriptive with my writing, because I want to paint a picture for you. I want to get my audience to feel what I'm trying to put out there, and Tom MacDonald is very much like that. He uses a lot of metaphors, and he's really good at painting a picture and like creating a story for you, so you can get where he's coming from. And I think that's another reason why he doesn't need flashy videos, because you got it. He painted he used his words and his lyrics well enough that you got what he's saying. And from someone who goes through mental health, like I went through mental health, and I'll talk about that a little bit later in the video, like, you need metaphors to like explain that, because when you're in that dark place saying that I was sad or I was cold or I was upset, that's not gonna cut it. You have to use certain types of language to really explain, this is what I was really going through and this is how I really felt. And I love that bar, especially building up my dreams with like Alloy and stuff like that. Like I crumbled, but I rebuilt my life back up with such a foundation that it will never get there again, or if it will never completely collapse again. And I really like that. Let's continue.
I'm on the edge and I'm waiting for any reason to jump. Don't take it lightly, I'm excited when they throw in the punch. I got a list of different strategies to bury these bumps. Very rarely do I carry out the weight of a grudge, but I've been...
So what I'm getting from that is like he was angst. And again, I feel like I'm getting that he was like, he's an all-in person. Like he just goes, like, you want to go, let's go, then I'm all in. And he talks about being on medication. He's also talked about rejecting the idea of taking the medication. I'm not someone who tells people like don't do what your doctor says and don't take the medication. I am someone who thinks America and Western countries are over medicated. And if you read a lot of books, read Lost Connections, it talks a lot about mental health and all the different reasons why people deal with mental health. And there's so many different reasons, but doctors, therapists, psychologists are just so quick to prescribe medicine instead of just dealing with the issue instead. You know, like there was a story about an older woman, she lost her husband and she went in for a checkup. And a doctor asked her, like, oh, how are you doing? And she says, you know, I'm fine. I'm still dealing with my husband's death, so I'm a little bit sad. And the doctor suggested she goes on antidepressants. And she reaffirmed him, a doctor, saying, I'm not depressed. I'm grieving. And that's what I'm talking about. Like, we're so quick to medicate instead of dealing with the issues or even just letting yourself go through the process. Like America takes up 80-something% of medication of pharmaceuticals, and we're only 5% of the planet. I think I've said that in another video. And I've taken antidepressants before. I know what Tom is talking about when he's talking about a mental breakdown. And for 2 weeks I thought that antidepressants were a miracle, and then they just made me so freaking sick. I got terribly ill on them, and not only was I sick, when I kept bringing it up to my therapist, he just kept lying and said it had nothing to do with the medication. And only he went out of town, so I had like a substitute therapist, and I went just to kind of get my prescription filled. And that therapist informed me that my other therapist, my regular therapist, was putting me on a dangerously high amount of medication. And then I went back home. I researched that medication, which I should have done in the beginning, and found out that that medication used to be an anti-seizure medication, which they do a lot in big pharma. They rebrand things and they do not tell the patients that they're rebranding something. And so if you're giving someone anti-seizure medication and they don't have seizures, you can only imagine. So that's why I'm kind of like anti-pharma, but I would never tell somebody what to do with their mental health. I just think like there's so many other ways to deal with it, and that whole idea that depression is just a chemical imbalance is a myth. You can go read the literature. There's a multitude of reasons why someone is depressed. Let's continue.
Rarely do I carry out the weight of a grudge, but I've been barely ordinary since the prairies and drugs. My imaginary friends in camouflage with some guns, and I've been fairly military, but my army is one. They've been passive aggressive.
I've been fairly military, but my army is one. I love that. and say he hasn't been ordinary because of the liquor and the drugs. And of course, most people aren't. Most people lose their ambitions, and everybody are different when they drink or get high. And some people just turn into someone they're not and completely out of character. Some people just laugh and giggle. Some people become nicer. Some people can become sad. So it seems like maybe it takes him out of a character, or he loses his ambitions. So yeah, let's continue.
With how they deal with my message, they lack the passion and reckless nature of truthful expression. They ain't made of what I'm made from. They've been bruised up and dead.
They lack the passion of recklessness, truth, and of expression. I murdered that, but I love that bar. Like, you're not gonna say what I'm gonna say, and you're sleeping on me, and I'm gonna show you why you shouldn't have been sleeping on me, because like you might be good, but I literally will never stop, and I will risk everything to get to where I need to get to. And I've never mentioned this in my past videos, but one of his videos that kind of, like, besides Dear Rappers, but kind of got him a lot of controversial attention was White Boy. And I respect the hell out of Tom for releasing that video, because I could be wrong, but I don't believe he was at a place in his career that he is right now, where he has such a strong and massive fan base, where it would be a lot harder to just get rid of Tom. And I really think that he was rolling the dice. Like, this can make me or break me. And if the right person would have sniffed that out, let's say like someone like Obama or Michelle Obama or Oprah Winfrey or some other person that is just idolized, like a god like Beyonce or Jay-Z, would have decided they just wanted to go after him because of this, he could have completely lost his career. I could be wrong. Maybe he would have survived it, but I really respect someone that says, like, you know what, I'm gonna do this. Like, you might have passion, but you're not gonna risk everything like I will risk everything just to speak the truth and just to speak my mind and just to be honest about how I feel. It was also great for marketing. I'm not gonna lie, it was great for marketing. But I respect him for that, because I really do think that was a risk. When I first saw that video, I was like, oh my god, what? Like, what? Not that I don't think he said it. I agree with everything he said. Mostly. I pretty much agree with everything he said. I'm trying to remember the lyrics. But like wow. Like, this dude has big dick energy. I said it in my last video about him. Let's continue.
Of what I'm made from, they've been bruised up and deadened. They don't understand the underhanded, ruthless obsession that I was born with. Slam like the
underhanded, ruthless obsession. Again, I feel like he's just that all-in guy, no holds bar, risking it all, throw it all in, not gonna play it safe. And I respect that. It can have its pros and its cons, but I respect that.
Slam like the door sticks. Closet full of skeletons so heavy couldn't move them with a fork.
Skeletons in a closet so heavy you couldn't move them with the forklift. Don't we all? Don't we all? And that's why y'all should stop pointing and wagging fingers and trying to cancel people. Because if your shit, like, I wish there was some sort of like universal law, not like law by government, but just universal law like gravity, where every time you try to cancel or call somebody out on your shit, that all your skeletons would just be automatically exposed. A lot of people would go silent then, wouldn't they? Let's continue.
Your bitch probably fell in love because you forced it. Now she bumped my records while you deep inside a porn binge. I woke up with a buzzing in my head. I don't want to leave the comfort of my bed. A dozen missed calls from a dozen of my friends, and my day just started, but it's coming to an end. Already getting dark. I know that feeling
of just like, you can't leave, you cannot even get up. And you open your eyes, and as soon as you open your eyes, you're already like, you just want to go back to sleep. You're like, I can't even do this. I can't even function. And I will talk about that later in the video. Let's continue.
And already getting dark. Wake up with the stars. I don't even know how I got home after I left the bar.
Walk in there.
I did 8 months sober, and I hate that it's over, but the weight on my shoulders started breaking my heart. I
have the utmost empathy. Well, not empathy, because I don't know what it's like to be an addict, but I have the utmost sympathy, because empathy is like understanding how someone feels in a situation, and sympathy is, you know, being comforted or being sad for someone. Never mind. Anyway, like, I have the utmost sympathy for anybody who is an addict. I don't approve of destructive behaviors that sometimes addicts have, but like, I have so much sympathy because, like, I couldn't imagine, like, from what I know, the 12-step program is something that helps you deal or develop tools to deal with your triggers better in a more healthier way. But like, life is triggering. Your entire, like, life in itself is triggering. So to constantly have to like be like constantly aware of your triggers and constantly trying to like use the tools you learned in 12 steps and not go back to your vices, I couldn't imagine how hard that is. And knock on wood for Tom, not that I would judge any of his behaviors, I mean, unless he was hurting people, which I doubt he would. What I'm trying to say is, like, if he ever decided, like, look, I want to have a drink here and there again or whatever, I would never judge that. That is his life, and hopefully he understands. He will come to a point where he can understand his limits or whatever like that. So I'm not someone who thinks, well, you said it, now you got to stick to it. I'm not saying that. But, and I'm not wishing him any ill will, and I'm not projecting this on him. What I'm about to say is that sobriety has an extremely high relapse rate. It has, I think it's over 80% relapse rate of sobriety. And a lot of people will relapse multiple times before they get a hold on it. I'm not saying everybody, I'm just saying a lot, generally speaking. Some people who have been sober for 20 years, 30 years will still relapse. And so I just, like, that just says to me that it's a struggle. Like, it's a fight every day. Life is hard enough, and then you have this thing inside of you that you have to deal with. And imagine having to go through sobriety at a really young age, like a teenager or a young 20, 30 years old, and now for the rest of your life, you have this thing you have to deal with. And maybe the guilt and shame and the anger that goes along with relapsing, and maybe the destruction of the life that you build while you're sober completely going away. Like, it has to be really difficult, and I don't know what that feels like. I don't have that addict tendency. I used to never want to say that because I always thought, like, as soon as you say it, it's gonna happen. But I do have addicts in my family. For some reason, it's just the men. I don't know why. Like, none of the women, as far as I know, are addicts. My mom was a sloppy drunk and a crying drunk and a complete crazy person, but she wasn't an addict. But most of the boys, if not all of them, but a good amount of them become addicts before they even hit adulthood. And I don't really know why that is. My grandfather was an addict. I don't know if it's just in the male gene. And so I was aware of that, and I was a little bit afraid that maybe I was an addict as well. But I mean, fortunately, I'm not. I do drink, I do party, but I do it very seldomly. Like, the idea of continuously doing something actually doesn't appeal to me. And if it's more than a couple of days, like, it actually has started to have the opposite effect on me, so I don't enjoy it at all. But so, like, I couldn't imagine knowing consciously that for the rest of my life I can't do something. I mean, I'm a rule breaker. I don't like to be told what I can or cannot do. So, like, that would be really hard. And personally, if I was an addict, I would probably go to one of these psychedelic sort of ayahuasca, peyote, like, mushroom places that they have in South America and Mexico that actually has quite of a high success rate. I believe somewhere in the 80s of people who do it usually do not relapse afterwards, and some of them can even start to implement things again, like beer or weed or whatever, without going back into that downward spiral. I think it's like 12 steps teach you the tools how to respond to your triggers. And I think this clinic basically resets your brain or something, resets your brain chemistry, so you no longer have that dependent on it. And so even if you start to partake in it again, it doesn't become an addiction. Not everyone can do that, but that's been said. So if I was an addict, that's what I would do, because I don't know if I would be able to go for the rest of my life. Like, and I'm really hard on myself, so the sadness that will come with the idea of backsliding would crush me on its own. And maybe that would be the one thing that would push me to not relapse. And I'm not saying that anybody else should feel that way who relapses, but that's just me personally. So I have a lot of respect for Tom, and of course he's talking about a relapse in this video, so but I can also understand the amount of pressure that has to be on someone, again, trying to make their dreams come true, trying to rebuild your life, trying to rebuild the bridges that you burned, trying to come out of this mental health crisis, and also dealing with haters and then people who look up to you. That has to be a lot of pressure. Again, I don't have that many subscribers even on my other channels, and I have people that I met in person that says they look up to me and it's like, oh, like, don't follow me. Like, okay, let's continue. I know that was a long, but you know that is the nature of this channel. If you subscribe, this is what you're used to. All right, let's get back into it.
With 1 or 2, and then I moved to 3 or 4, and then I realized that I was back where I had been before. Vans gone missing from the bottle. Tell my doctor they were stolen, but I know that they were swallowed. Everything I ever did was always done with open throttles. All the way or nothing. Non-commitment is a broken promise, and I know that that's a problem in itself.
Non-commitment is a broken promise. Like, just not sticking to what you set for yourself is a broken promise, and going in on full throttle is like basically what my assumption was in the beginning of this video. And yes, I've seen this video before, but I haven't seen it in a while, and I haven't broken down like this. But yeah, it was like he just seems like the type of guy that goes like head in and full speed, which again can be a good thing or a bad thing.
But you're living or you're dying or you're crying out for help. Yeah, it's been a week since I felt like me. I've been starving, but I just can't eat. I'm exhausted, but I can't find sleep. It's been harder than it's ever been. The darkness hasn't ever dimmed. The light's so bleak. I
know that feeling, dude. Can't sleep, can't eat. The light is so bleak. I totally get it. I totally get it, man.
Understood what they meant when they said that they were just the shadows of men that they had been before they were beat. Now I know that everything I heard was for real when I'm looking in the mirror at a shell of myself. I think that stress.
That's what happens, man. That's what happens. And I like what he said before, is like you're either living and you're dying or you're crying out for help. And I think that's just a lot of people. A lot of people are just surviving, basically surviving, and they're not really living their life. You know what I mean? And I guess if you're really content and happy with that, fine. But I wouldn't want to be like that. That's just personally, that's just me. That's why I'm traveling the world for my lifestyle. And it's not hard, it's not easy, and I don't have a lot of money, but I still do it.
It's a contributing factor to being 28 and feeling older than dad does. The wrinkles on my face spreading faster and faster. If the good die young, I hope I'm one of the bad ones. The days long, stay strong and
I love that part. If the good die young, I hope I'm one of the bad ones. I love that, because you know a lot of these artists, what the 27 Club is, what do they call it?
Again tomorrow though, even if you're running out of reasons to ignore the phone, even if you're running out of gas, go and borrow more. Your demons knock the hardest when you finally chose to close the door. This is not the way my parents.
Your demons knock the hardest when you finally chose to close the door. Yup. My mom, my adopted mom, who's really religious, she always said, like, if the devil's fucking with you, that means you know you're doing something right. It's the same thing with haters. The haters at you, if they're at your door, that means you're doing something right. The haters ain't paying attention to you, then maybe you're not doing something right. Or maybe, I don't know, just you're a pleasant person. I have no idea.
This is not the way my parents raised me. I hope they realize that they didn't fail one of their babies. This is the result of a declining social climate that's original design was keeping people trapped inside it. Liquor and violence.
The original design of it was keeping people trapped inside it. Exactly. It starts with our media. It starts with our education system. It starts with our government. And it also starts with self-responsibility. So I can't put it all on them. But our education system for sure wasn't created to create thinkers. It was created to create workers, worker bees, the zombie people to work and contribute to the economics. And I like the fact that he pointed out that it wasn't his parents' fault, because I think it is the stereotype that if you're an addict, or if you have mental health issues, or if you're homeless, or anything like you're a criminal, that you definitely had a horrible childhood, you had bad parents, you had a broken home, and all these things. And statistically speaking, that usually is true. Like, people who come from fatherless homes or broken homes tend to be more susceptible to those things, but it doesn't mean all the time. Generally, it means just general. It doesn't mean individual. It doesn't mean like mandatory. It's a law or something like that. So people from really good families and really good homes, and he talks about this in his video Angels, they can still be susceptible to developing addictions and even have mental health problems. So let's continue. Mental health and addiction does not discriminate. All right, people who usually with money can get more help, but or have more access to medicine or medical experts and stuff like that, but it doesn't discriminate. Let's continue.
People trapped inside it, liquor and violence, we suffer in silence until we embrace one another and find our collective defiance will topple the giants. I just try to smile through the crying, cause I know that someone somewhere is feeling way worse than I am, and that's true. That's true.
Our collectiveness will topple the giants. I know that wasn't the full bar, but I really like that. And that last little piece is there's a consistent message in a lot of his songs, like let's come together. And yes, also, most of the time someone has it worse off than you. Doesn't mean that you can't be upset about your own situation, but still being grateful for at least you're out of it, or you have some ability to still make a life for yourself when other people haven't. I love the simplicity of Tom's songs or Tom's videos, because again, he's so well with his words where he painted a picture. We don't really need the visuals, and maybe the visuals would have even taken away from the lyrics. He has the hangman tattoo, but he had the noose, and he takes it off saying like, you know what, I'm good. I really like this song, and one of the reasons why this video speaks to me is because like about 8 years ago, it's a while ago now, but for about 2 to 3 years I went through the worst mental health crisis of my life. I felt like Tom. I felt like I was having a mental breakdown and that I was actually about to go crazy. Like I thought I was about to lose my mind. Like I would be out with friends and literally just go into a daze and start staring something at the table and not being able to even take in what was around me. I'll be walking down the street and out of nowhere, I was fine, I was relatively fine anyway. I'd be walking down the street and out of nowhere just drop to my knees, almost in a fetal position, outside in public on the sidewalk, and just start bawling as if I just found out my mom died or something, knock on wood. Like, and if you asked me why I was crying, I would have no idea. I don't know what's wrong with me. I was literally, I had like bedridden depression. And when I said bedridden, I was at the point of wearing adult diapers because I didn't want to take the 10 steps or less to my bathroom to get out of bed. I just could not get out of bed. Like, that's how bad it was. Like, and the sad part is like no one really took me seriously. Like, I had a boyfriend at the time that everyone just thought I was being dramatic. So please, if someone tells you that they're fucking losing their mind and they're going through something, like, listen. Like, I even called my sister, and it takes a lot for me to ask for help, to express that I'm going through something bad or hard, because I like to be the strong one. And so I even called my sister and told her that I thought I was losing my mind and that I thought I was going crazy, and she just like brushed me off, like, oh, you're just having a bad day. So I was almost felt like I was going through it alone, even though I know a lot of people go through it. And what I try to explain to people how it felt was that this is all metaphor and this is all how it felt in my head, was that I had this group of people. I was standing on a cliff or an edge of a high cliff with thousands of feet down, and there's an ocean. And there's a whole mob of people behind me telling me to jump. And they'll whisper things like, if you jump, then the pain will stop. If you jump, then it will go away. If you jump, then you can end your misery. And even though at that part wasn't actually literally jump, even though I was extremely suicidal and I had suicidal ideation or something like that, when you just constantly fantasize about suicide. But it really meant to like just give in into the mental, like give in to the insanity, basically. Like, just let yourself snap. That's what it felt like, and it took every inch, every strength I had in my body just to stay sane and just not to jump off of that edge. And I really felt like if I would have let go, I would have been one of those crazy people like talking to themselves down Hollywood Boulevard, or I would be dead. And yeah. And so like I went to get antidepressants, and I remember when I was telling the doctor or the counselor, the person who approves you, because it's free, it's government funded, so you have to be approved, because they can't take everybody, take serious cases. And so I remember telling her about my life, and I told her about my childhood. And you guys don't know about my childhood, but it's pretty shitty. And I won't go into details. Didn't have the best parents, or more specifically, the best mom in the world. And so I told her about my life, and I said it as if I said it really unemotionally, because I've said my story so many times where sometimes I tell people and I forget how bad it was because I look at their facial expression, even though I'm like really blank and I'm like, oh yeah, shit, that is bad. Like, anyway, she asked me like, why should we allow you into this program? And I kind of had a feeling that she was about to say no to me. And so I was like, okay, I just had to bring down my walls and just say what it is. And I said, if you say no to me and send me home, I cannot promise you I'm going to wake up the next day. And I started crying, and they let me into the program. Unfortunately, like I mentioned earlier in the video, that ended up really bad. But the thing that got me out of depression, and Tom MacDonald talks about this in his live streams, because people ask him like, how did you stop drinking and all these things, and he always says like, I never went to 12-step, I never did any program. Not that he's talking bad about it, but he said like, the fact that I almost died, or the fact that I almost lost my mind, is what, that's all I needed was to get sober. And it's the same thing for me. The fact that I was literally like, I'm on death's door, I can't do this anymore. And I just made a conscious decision that this depression is no longer a part of me, and is no longer a part of my identity. And I understand that what a lot of people who talk about mental health find comfort in sort of identifying with their mental health as a part of who they are, and there's nothing they can do about it, nothing to be ashamed of, and all that stuff. And that's fine for them. For me, that was dangerous, to identify it and make it a part of me. And I was like, this is not a part of me. And I like how Tom describes it like demon and monsters and stuff like that, because that's how I felt when I wanted to describe my depression. I was like, it's a little demon that sits in the corner and just hates the fuck out of me, despises me, and wants to torture me to death. That is what it is. And even in moments when I was happy, that demon was there, right? And so that's not a part of me. That demon is not a part of me. That's just an entity that's there, and I need to figure out how to get the fuck out of my life. Metaphorically, I'm not saying depression is really an entity, but if you're part of some sort of religions, like my religion, which is evangelistic Christianity, that's what they believe. I'm not a part of the church anymore, but that's what it was. And I just made a decision, and it just felt like from that moment I made that decision, everything just got better. Like, I just stopped believing that this is something I had to deal with anymore, and everything got better. It didn't get better overnight. It took like a couple of years or a year and a half for me to really get better, and I started doing tons and tons and tons and tons of research on how to naturally cure, fight, manage your depression or mental health issues. I changed my diet, I changed the way I lived, I started working out, and I changed my surroundings. That's one of the reasons why I started traveling. I realized there were people in my life, even though they weren't trying to, were toxic or emotional vampires, or they're triggering and stuff like that, and I need to get away from them so I can build myself up. And that's one of the reasons why I travel. You can't run away from your problems. Traveling doesn't cure anything, but it gives you the space to be able to work on yourself, because you're not financially drained like you are in America, especially if you go to certain countries. And so that's kind of how I got out of my depression. I really just made a decision and put the work into it. And since then, in the last 8 years, I might have had a microcosm, a tiny speck of what my depression used to feel like or was here and there. But I've developed the tools necessary. When I feel like I'm getting depressed, I can recognize that I'm feeling depressed, and I know what I need to do to make sure I don't go down that spiral again. And I'm not saying be toxic, like have toxic positivity or deny your emotions. I always recognize and honest with how I'm feeling at the time, but I no longer allow myself to dwell in it, and I have the tools to be able to get out of that and pull myself before I go down too far. So that's my story, and this is one of the reasons why I really like this video and I identify with this video, and I like the fact that Tom MacDonald and Nova talks about their mental health. I mean, they don't talk about it in a way where it's romanticized or anything like that. They talk about it the way that it fucking is, which is like a demon, like a monster, like it's fucking torture. And it's something you have to keep a lid on, you have to keep an eye on, like all the time, like sobriety. But I don't know if I would put it at the same level. Like I said, it depends on the mental health issues you're dealing with. But yeah, anyway, didn't know if you wanted to hear that or not, but I thought I would share that with you guys. This was a long video, nature of my channel. Like and comment if you have any of your own mental health issues or mental health journeys that you went through. Feel free to share it with the community. If not, that's fine. I know it can be a hard thing to share. If there's anything else you guys would like me to react to, please put in the comment section below. Comment, like, subscribe. It helps with the algorithm. I'm sorry I got all like heavy. I'm fine. I'm like so blessed and amazing in my life right now. I have an amazing life. So if you're worried, don't be worried. That's it, guys. Have a blessed day. Bye.